welcome to the Deep Dive. Our mission today is deceptively simple. We want to find out if there's a reliable, sort of generalized cheat code to becoming genuinely smarter.
More creative, better at solving complex problems.
Exactly. Can you actually train your brain to achieve that kind of generalized intelligence?
Yeah.
We took a stack of sources from major meta-analyses of brain games to some groundbreaking neuroscience on chess expertise, and even a little Aristotle to figure out what works.
And crucially, what doesn't. And what doesn't work is really where the research has to start, because that's where all the marketing money is.
Right.
Our overall focus is on something really foundational, the transfer of skills. Basically, how knowledge you get in one area generalizes and applies to another.
Okay, so walk us through the two types of transfer, because it sounds like they define the entire, success or failure of any kind of cognitive training.
For sure. First, you have near transfer. This is the easy one. It's the generalization of skills across highly similar domains.
So if I practice a task, I get better at that task.
Exactly that task, or one that's very, very similar. Think of it like if you learn how to use one brand of smartphone, you can probably figure out its main competitor pretty quickly.
That makes sense. It's almost inevitable.
It is. But then there's the holy grail, far transfer. This is the big one. It's the transfer of skills across domains that are, weakly related or not related at all.
Okay, so this requires you to get the underlying principles.
Precisely. You have to rely on shared conceptual or abstract features. It's moving from mastering a little game on your phone to actually improving your general real-world decision-making skills when you're under stress.
And far transfer is where the whole multi-billion-dollar cognitive training industry, especially those famous brain training apps, completely falls apart.
That's where the evidence lands, yes. The promise of these programs was that by training a specific function, like your working memory, you'd see these global improvements, a generalized brain boost.
But the evidence just isn't there.
For far transfer, it's overwhelmingly negative.
Let's get specific, because our sources cited a 2017 study that really put this to the test.
They did. Researchers set up this 10-week study, and they pit popular brain training games, including ones from Lumosity, against computer games that were designed only for fun.
Like Tetris or something.
Yeah, exactly. Basic simulators, things like that. They wanted to see if the Lumosity players improved beyond just, their ability to play the game itself. And crucially, they measured brain activity with fMRI while people were doing general decision-making tasks.
Looking for real structural changes. So what did the brain scans tell them? Did the brain trainers show any sign of a generalized boost?
Not at all. There were zero differences in the fMRI scans between the two groups.
Wow.
The specialized games didn't reorganize their brain function any more than the simple fun games did, and they showed no differences in general decision-making abilities at the end of the 10 weeks.
So if someone felt like they were getting better, what was actually happening?
That's the critical distinction. Any improvements people saw on standard cognitive tests were likely just practice effects. You take a test a second time, you get better at the test.
That's just near transfer at work.
Pure near transfer. In fact, a control group that didn't play any games at all, but just took the test twice, showed virtually identical improvement to the groups that played the training games.
So the transfer effect was, scientifically speaking, basically nothing.
Nil. Exactly. You are only getting better at the microcosm.
And this isn't just one study. The aggregate data seems pretty clear on this.
Oh, absolutely. When we look at meta-analyses, which pool results from dozens, sometimes hundreds of studies, the consensus is that the true far transfer effect size is estimated to be close to zero.
A zero effect.
A zero effect. And this holds across a bunch of things, often marketed for cognitive improvement, working memory training, general video game playing, music training, even those exercise-based video games.
It really sounds like the promise just massively outpaced the results. And this had real-world consequences, didn't it?
It really did. The commercial hype led to massive regulatory fallout. We should remember, back in 2016, Lumos Labs, the company behind Lumosity, they paid $2 million to the Federal Trade Commission.
$2 million. Why?
For misleading the public with unsubstantiated suggestions that their products could help protect against memory loss, age-related decline, even dementia. It's a sobering reminder about separating sophisticated marketing from reproducible science.
Okay, so given that definitive bust, I'm wondering about the one physiological caveat our sources mentioned. If the games don't make you globally smarter, they do seem to have one specific benefit, right? Especially for older adults.
That's a key piece of nuance. Right. While they totally failed the far transfer test, one study did find that intense mental exercise, even the kind in these training training programs was associated with an increase in acetylcholine levels in older adults.
Acetylcholine. For listeners who might need a quick reminder, why is that chemical messenger so important?
It's absolutely critical for memory formation and learning. It's part of the brain's cholinergic system, which is highly sensitive to age-related decline.
Okay. So the findings suggest that while the apps don't necessarily improve general intelligence, they don't teach you new conceptual structures, they might provide a useful workout for the physiological system that's responsible for memory upkeep.
So it could potentially offset age-related decline in that one specific local system.
That's the idea. So we can't completely dismiss the effort, but we have to shift our expectations. We're not becoming a genius, we're potentially maintaining memory health. It's a very different promise.
Very different promise. And if we want real FAR transfer, we need to look beyond quick practice and toward the mechanisms of true expertise.
Precisely.
Okay, so if spending 50 minutes a day on a puzzle app doesn't generate high-level cognitive skill, what does? When we look at, say, chess grandmasters, our sources make it really clear their skill isn't based on superior general abilities, like a huge memory or some off-the-charts IQ. That's right. Expertise isn't defined by general intelligence. It's defined by acquiring extensive, well-organized knowledge. Experts literally process the world differently. Their knowledge base changes what they notice, how they interpret patterns, what we call chunking, and how they retrieve relevant facts without all the clutter.
And chess is the ultimate laboratory for studying this kind of change in the brain.
It really is. Researchers have mapped the brain activity of chess experts, and the changes are profound, particularly in how they see the board. They focus on an area for skilled visual perception called the posterior middle temporal gyrus, or PMTG.
You don't need to remember the name.
No, but just think of it as the brain's visual pattern matching hub.
So what does this hub look like in an expert compared to a novice?
For experts, this area shows enhanced functional connectivity. It's talking faster and louder with regions involved in shape identification, movement detection, and action planning.
So the expert isn't just seeing things.
Not at all. They're seeing potential moves, trajectories, and outcomes instantly, all at once. The vision is directly integrated into the planning system. It's a staggering visualization.
It really is.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Experts exhibit what researchers call bilateral engagement. It's been dubbed the double take of expertise.
A double take. I love that.
When recognizing complex patterns, the expert engages both the left and the right PMTG. A novice, when they look at the same board, only uses the left side.
So the expert's brain isn't just looking harder, it's using a significantly wider, more comprehensive, more symmetrical lens to analyze the problem. That makes the whole idea of expertise feel almost tangible.
It is. The brain is structurally optimized to see the hidden patterns. But this optimization can become a weakness if the environment changes. Which brings us to Chess 960.
Fisher random chess. This is relevant because someone like Magnus Carlsen, who is widely considered the best player in the world, is a huge proponent of it. So why does randomization matter so much in a game that's already so complex?
Well, Carlsen champions Chess 960 because it randomizes the starting position of the major pieces. In traditional chess, top-tier players rely heavily on memorizing specific learned patterns, opening sequences, engine-driven moves.
That is high-level near transfer, a highly optimized system for a predictable environment.
Exactly. Chess 960 strips that away. It immediately makes huge chunks of memorized theory useless. It forces players away from rote memory and toward relying purely on, general, transferable, high-level pattern diagnosis and deep abstract thinking.
It compels them to build new conceptual bridges on the fly.
Which is exactly what FAR transfer requires. It's a much truer test of cognitive flexibility.
Okay, so we've established that structured expertise and high-level pattern diagnosis are key. But how does the brain actually make that jump from a specialized domain like chess to an unrelated problem in, say, engineering or strategy? How do we build that conceptual bridge?
The underlying mechanism, according to cognitive science, is analogy. Some researchers argue that analogy is the core of cognition. Doug Hofstadter famously said analogy is the motor of the car of thought.
The motor of the car of thought. I like that.
It's the fundamental mechanism that allows categorization and comparison and new insight to happen. It lets us relate the unfamiliar to the familiar.
So let's unpack this motor. What are the moving parts of successful analogical thinking?
The process relies on 3 core mental steps. First is retrieval, so accessing a known analogous situation from your long-term memory. Second is mapping.
This is the relational work.
This is the relational work. You align the structure, not the surface details, the structure between the known source and the unknown target, and then you project inferences.
So you look past the fact that one problem has chess pieces and the other has stock options, and you focus on the dynamic, the trade-offs, the positioning, the sacrifice.
Precisely. And the third step is evaluation. You have to judge the quality and the usefulness of those inferences. Was that a helpful structure to map? Did it lead to a novel and useful solution?
And this mechanism analogy, it's the engine not just for problem solving, but for creativity itself.
Absolutely. Metaphors are just extended analogies. And research shows that highly creative individuals are faster and more accurate at comprehending both conventional and novel metaphors.
What does that suggest about their brain?
It suggests their semantic memory, the way their brain stores knowledge and concepts, is inherently more flexible. They can connect weakly related parts of a metaphor much more easily.
That ability to combine distant concepts or to drive the brain into new territory seems to be the literal difference between being highly intelligent and truly creative. Our sources highlight this using something called network control theory.
It is a stunning contrast. Researchers found that intelligence, measured structurally in the brain, is related to the ability to efficiently drive the brain system into easy-to-reach neural states.
Efficiency and optimization. That sounds like the ultimate brain training success, except it doesn't lead to anything new.
Correct. But creativity, which requires producing something both novel and useful, is related to the ability to drive the brain system into difficult-to-reach neural states. It involves parts of the prefrontal cortex pushing the system's boundaries.
So if intelligence uses the well-paved direct highway, creativity is actively forcing the cognitive car off-road into terrain it hasn't mapped before, just to see what view it gets.
That's a wonderful analogy for it. And reinforcing this idea, the hippocampus, which we usually associate with memory, is critical for creativity. It does this by combining details of past, maybe unrelated experiences to vividly construct possible future events.
It's using memory not just to look back, but to creatively look forward.
It's a process called distal simulation. It's truly amazing.
Okay, so we know brain games fail because they only lead to rote near transfer. And complex activities that rely on these relational structures, analogy, metaphor, they lead to far transfer. What does this mean for how we should actually structure our learning?
The failure of those commercial programs, it fundamentally comes down to the lack of explicit awareness, metacognition. Far transfer never happens automatically.
You have to be intentional about it.
You have to be. The learner has to consciously build a bridge between the skills learned in the microcosm, the game, the course, and the macrocosm of real life.
So we have to teach people how to analogize, not just what to know.
Absolutely. And instructional principles suggest we need scaffolding. To maximize the benefits of analogy, instructors should start by using well-understood examples and explain the correspondences fully. They should use visuals, verbal supports, anything to emphasize the shared structural logic.
So for the beginner, provide the guardrails, show them the path.
Precisely. But here's the fascinating nuance for advanced learners: the expertise reversal effect. While novices need that guidance, proficient learners benefit most from being forced to generate their own mappings and draw their own inferences.
Because that simulates real-world problem solving.
It does. It directs their attention to the relational structure, and it forces them into that difficult-to-reach neural state where the real learning happens.
That concept connects directly to the highest intellectual virtue defined by Aristotle, which gets translated as practical wisdom.
That's phronesis. Aristotle saw this as the complicated interaction between general theory, or episteme, and personal, practical judgment, techne.
Okay, break that down.
Technical knowledge, techne, can resolve merely complicated tasks, like writing a piece of code. But phronesis is what enables people to resolve truly complex tasks, where the parameters are ambiguous or ethical issues are involved.
So if episteme is knowing the laws of human behavior, and techne is knowing how to use a specific sales script, what's an example of phronesis in action?
It all centers on intelligent perception. It's the immediate, non-deliberative ability to grasp the particulars of a complex situation. Imagine a seasoned doctor walking into a room. They don't have to run through 1,000 diagnoses. They immediately grasp the key health status of that specific patient.
The ethically salient features, the true source of the problem.
Exactly. This immediate insight, this analogical recognition of structure in the particulars, is what makes experienced, practically wise people so much more effective than people who only know the universal rules.
It is the ultimate form of bar transfer, where structure gained over decades is just instantaneously applied to a novel situation.
That's it.
So what does this all mean for us? For the lifelong learners who are constantly striving to get better, the dream of easy, generalized cognitive enhancement through passive practice or brain games is fundamentally unsupported.
If you practice a task, you get better at that task. That's near transfer. End of story.
True cognitive growth, the kind that results in far transfer and expertise, is achieved through specific complex activities, like mastering an unstructured domain or deeply analyzing problems, and most importantly, the conscious application of analogy.
You have to actively align relational structures. You have to build bridges between distant domains.
It requires intention, metacognition, and a willingness to step away from comfortable rote learning. We saw the contrast in the brain's driving dynamics. Intelligence is all about driving the brain into easy-to-reach neural states. It's about efficiency and speed.
But creativity, the source of novel and useful solutions, is characterized by driving the system into difficult-to-reach neural states. That difficulty, that structural effort, is where genuine transferable wisdom is forged.
So the path to becoming truly wiser and better at complex problem solving isn't about finding the most efficient shortcut. It's about forcing your cognitive system to do heavy, complex structural work.
So we'll leave you with this final thought. What challenge will you pursue this week that forces your brain out of its comfort zone and into a genuinely difficult-to-reach cognitive state? Where will you intentionally build a bridge between two domains you currently see as being miles apart?